Good morning and welcome on board this live safari. My name is Scott and I'm teamed up with Wiem on camera. It's a cloudy morning here in the Sabi Sands of South Africa and looking forward to some cool weather. Let's hope the clouds stay as a protective covering for us, because it is, I'm told, estimated to get up to 97 degrees Fahrenheit today. So quite a hot day if the clouds do burn off, which I'm guessing they will according to the weatherman, as soon as possible. Here is a wildebeest. Looks like a bull, and he's all on his own here. So obviously not a successful bull, but he's camping out with a herd of impala, which is quite a clever move. If I was all on my lonesome, I would tag along with any kind of prey, other prey animals, because the more eyes and ears, the less chance they have of being caught by a predator. Speaking of predators, Wiem and I are planning on searching for any sign of Shadow, a leopardess, and her roughly 1-month-old female cub called Not Barbara. So looking forward to trying to track down where she is. We haven't seen her for quite some time, so it'll be wonderful to get a visual of them again. No, I've spotted an animal. Another animal that we didn't know was here. It's lying down on the road straight ahead of us there. A hyena. So we're going to head a little bit closer. Maybe they know something that we don't. And while we get into position with that hyena, we shall send you across to Noel, who is on foot this morning.
Good morning, everyone. I am on foot, and I'm excited to be on foot. I'm doing a little jig. I love a bushwalk. It's myself. I'm Noel. So it's myself on presenting, and then on camera, we have Davi. Hello, Davi.
Hello.
And then we have a very beautiful flower I want to show you to start out our show today. We have a gorgeous little bushveld violet right here. It's about that they can get pollen all over them, and then when they fly off, then they go and pollinate another flower. Now, behind me, as we're moving away from our flower, is a lot of big gray clouds, and I'm excited about these big gray clouds because we really need rain. So I'm hoping it holds off for the most of the show, because we're on foot and I don't want to have to come home. And the tent is fun, but I prefer to be out here. So we're going to cross fingers, hold thumbs for this rain, and while we do so, let's head back to Scott, who has a hyena.
Yes, it's not just one hyena, but actually two. And it looks like they are just relaxing, taking it easy this morning. I have no doubt that they had a busy evening. I've actually followed their tracks from the area of our camp to where we are now, and they've probably moved at least a mile, but hyenas are renowned for moving huge distances at night. They've got great stamina. Seems like, judging by their empty bellies, they didn't have any success in finding anything to scavenge, nor anything to hunt. Sadly, something that we haven't really documented very much, but certainly does happen in the Sabi Sands. The hyenas here do hunt. How much? I mean, we're uncertain, because a lot of the time they're active, we're asleep. But there have been 1 or 2 confirmed sightings quite recently of hyena chasing prey around. Not too far south of here, some hyena chased a large kudu bull into a waterhole where some lions were resting up, and those lions cashed in and ran into the water and took down that kudu bull. It was an epic sighting. Is that a little red tinge on her back there? Is that some blood, maybe a little wound? Hard to be certain, but it does look like a little bit of a reddish tinge where her kind of hip joins up with the rest of her body there. I'm guessing it's a female, just because, and the strongest in the hyena kingdom. They are the dominant ones, interestingly. Josh, you've mentioned that her back legs look tiny, and I guess it's because of the funny way she's lying. You see how the kind of paws are lying upside down? And I guess if she was kind of lying normally, they would look a little bit bigger. Isn't it wonderful how we can be so close to these animals and they really don't care about us? Absolutely wonderful. It would be terrible to ruin their snooze, which clearly we're not doing. Funny, you'd like to know if they hunt impala, and yes, they certainly do. Quite a few years back on the Djuma dam cam, there was a sighting of some hyena chasing an impala into the Djuma waterhole. So yes, impala is certainly on their list of things that they will possibly hunt. But like most predators, they are highly opportunistic. So there's kind of no set menu. I think probably they cash in a lot on the small animals, the newborn animals, as they are born and they're still a little bit weak and underdeveloped. Okay, well, that one's just got up with no warning. I wonder if it's heard something, or if it's just feeling lucky heading down this road. Lead us to a leopard, or some lion. Well, perfect. I'm glad you guys have had a snooze. There you can see now her back legs look kind of normal, now that she's up and on the move. What would be really nice if they vocalized for us. It's something that we seldom get to show you, and it's one of my favorite things to watch. They hold their heads quite low down, pointing it at the ground when they call, and if nice and close, the audio will be incredible. Ah, very good. Well, it's not just us cruising around here in South Africa. We also have a team up in the Masai Mara in Kenya. I'm told it is a misty morning up there. So why don't you go and join Rolf and see what his plans are. Good morning, everybody, and welcome aboard the Sunrise Safari. We're coming to you from a very wet Mara Triangle, and it is before sunrise. So we're sitting here watching the colors changing, overlooking the Mara River. You're watching Safari Live, and my name is Ralph Kirsten, and on the camera we have Adrian this morning. How's it, Adrian? Morning to everybody, and welcome aboard this Sunrise Safari. Please don't forget to join us on the hashtag Safari Live on Twitter and on the YouTube live chat. We'd love for you to be involved on the biggest game drive in the world. Now, my plan for this morning is, I think I'm going to take a chance and head back towards the hyena den, a little bit on the way to the Tanzanian border. I'm taking a chance because of all the rain that we've had. There might be a little bit of a slippy, slidey entrance towards the den, but I'm sure we should be all right. There's two of us. It's Adrian and myself, and if we do get stuck, oh well, we'll get a little bit of mud on us and we'll get ourselves out of there. But while we do that and start to make our way towards the den, let's head you on over to James and see how he's doing this morning.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this end of the Sunrise Safari. We are looking at the sunrise, which is appropriate given that this is the Sunrise Safari. Yes, indeed. My name is James Hendry, and I have a tale of horrific proportions to tell you this morning. Before I tell you my terrifying story, please remember you may talk to us using the hashtag Safari Live or the chat stream on YouTube. On camera today is Sebastian.
Morning, everyone.
36 years and 2 days old he is. This was in my bed this morning. Now, I don't mean there was a tub of breadcrumbs in my bed this morning. I mean that was in my bed this morning. That nasty, nasty, nasty thing, glistening in the early morning light, was in my sheets this morning. This, everybody, is a Parabuthus scorpion. A Parabuthus scorpion is the most venomous scorpion that we find out here. And it was in my bed. How it didn't sting me, I don't know. I am very grateful that it did not. There it is. If you see me leap up and down and swear suddenly, that'll be because this thing has escaped. Now, I can't identify exactly which Parabuthus it is. Well, if it's a Parabuthus, it's either Parabuthus transvalicus or it might be a Europlectes species. Either way, you can see that its tail is thick. Please excuse the breadcrumbs. I didn't feel inspired to clean its new home. I really didn't. And it's got a thick tail, you can see, and thin pincers, and therefore you know that if it bites you or stings you, it's not going to bite you, it is going to be deeply, deeply unpleasant. Now, how it didn't sting me sometime during the night on some sensitive part of my body, I don't know. I'm very pleased that it didn't, however. It's now going to go and live in the bush over here. We're very far from camp, and I hope never to see it again. Go away, and do not ever come back anywhere near me, you distasteful creature. Now it is gone. You know, it's all very well finding them underneath the bark of a tree or something like that. It's quite another to find it in your sheets. Glenn, in Canada, you say you would have had a heart attack. I nearly did have a heart attack. I had to lie down and fan myself for some time. It was dreadful. Now, our plan today is to see if we can find Thandi. We're in the area where she was yesterday. I can't find the kill that she had. While we do that, Nancy, you want to know about their venom and what it does to you? Well, it's a neurotoxic venom, which probably has a locally cytotoxic effect as well. So it will sting and hurt like nothing on earth if it bites you or stings you. And it will also, those ones will have a neurotoxic effect. So you'll probably have heart palpitations. You will probably, you might find some shortness of breath. If you were very small or very old or very infirm, then it's possible that it could actually kill you. Somebody sort of in relatively good health shouldn't be killed by it, but would certainly have to go and visit the doctor. And given where we live here in the low veld of South Africa, where the general work ethic is such that people work for about 2 hours of the day, to find a doctor on a Sunday is going to prove something difficult. You'll probably have to drive most of the way to Johannesburg to find anybody not in some form of hungover stupor. Okay, good. Let's go back across to Scott and his hyena while I continue to look for Thandi and Thumba. No, not Thumba. The other one, the new one. Bye.
Morning, James. And what a relief that he found that scorpion in his bed before it managed to sting him. It would have been a very rude awakening. So we got very, very excited here. As you guys left us, we heard some impala alarm calling behind us, so we raced in their position, and they were looking directly where these hyena are. So we're guessing the hyena that's furthest down the road. While it walked into that position, there was a little gap where the impala would have just been able to make it out, but from quite a distance, so they weren't entirely sure what exactly it was. And a good example of how even animals out here do make mistakes from time to time. Impala will not alarm call at hyena, unless, of course, they are confused and think it's a leopard. So we were extremely disappointed when we realized the impala had a false alarm. Donald, you would like to know if there's a reason why they are sleeping on the road. And yes, there is. It's not as kind of loaded with parasites as the grassy areas. I guess it's nice and comfortable on the sand as opposed to in the bush where you'll have lots of little twigs and branches sticking up. So quite often the animals do not only use our roads as their major highways and pathways, but also a nice place to snooze. I guess it's also just easier than going off the road, because in all likelihood when they get active again they will walk along this road. They do like the path of least resistance, not that they use it all the time, but it definitely does increase the chances of us finding animals, because often they do use the roads. I'm kind of torn as to what to do now, because we don't very often get to spend time with hyena like this. They're often on the move and hustling and bustling, and because we don't have a hyena den that we know of on the property at the moment, we haven't spent a great deal of time with them. And they could at any moment wake up and vocalize for us, which would be wonderful. Colbert, you would like to know if we've seen the dominant female hyena of Djuma recently. And not that I'm aware of. Like I said, there's no den on the property now, and I'm a little bit out of the loop as to who exactly the hyenas are that we get to see here. So I was hoping some of you might be able to help us with identifying any of these individuals if you recognize them. So if you do, please shout. We do have some hyena experts amongst our Safari Live viewers, and any insights on them would be great. Just like leopards, they all have slightly different spot patterns and unique characteristics. Oh, well, thank you very much to Michael, who's already let us know that the middle hyena that we're about to take a look at now is called Comet. So, thank you, Michael. And what is it, what's the distinguishing feature that you use to ID her, Michael? Is there anything in specific? Is it that little notch out of her left ear there? I guess that could be one of the characteristics, possibly combined with her spots. And Kirsty's just whispered in my ear, Kirsty's directing the show, that she thinks Comet might be a boy. And that would kind of make sense. He doesn't look very big. His head isn't as big as the individual that's closer to us. So I'm guessing the individual that's closer to us could be a female. Or who knows, maybe this is just three boys cruising along together. These impala are still alarm calling behind us. I'm almost tempted to go and have another look to see why they are still alarming. But what's interesting is that there has been no reaction from these hyenas. So maybe these hyena can tell that these impala alarm calls are not 100% certain as to what they've seen. Because if they were, they would probably run in that direction to try and find the predator. Hyenas love following predators like lion and leopard, in the knowledge that they will eventually catch something that they can try and steal. So some interesting behavior. Okay. Well, it looks like the hyenas have had enough snoozing, and that's great news. Okay, well, thank you very much, Michael. You have just said that the one that was closest to us is an unknown male, so I was wrong by thinking it was a female. And the third one you haven't had a good enough look at to know who's who. But in all likelihood, a little group of males going about their business together. Alrighty. Well, I'm hoping that the other two hyena do get up and mobile, and we will be sure to keep following them. And while we do that, we are going to send you back up to the Masai Mara with Jamie, who's got some wonderful views of a balloon.
I hope that the other two hyena get up as well, but I just thought, if you could imagine, because I'm not going to sing it, that the Lion King introduction was playing. I feel that would be a very suitable soundtrack to this morning's view over the Masai Mara. Although correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think there were any hot air balloons in the Lion King. That would have been a very strange turn of events if the introduction included all of the animals going to bow before Mufasa and his offspring, and an air balloon floated past. Be highly entertaining. A very good morning. Kirsty says they filmed some of the scenes from a hot air balloon. A very good morning to all of you. My name is Jamie, and this morning Craig is on camera with me, and I promise you my voice will return at some point. And I want to tell you, while we look at the sunrise, one last view, I want to tell you the story of a few months ago when we were doing the TV series. I didn't have a clue where I was. As it turned out, I was at Lookout Hill. I'd been with lions all night and severely sleep deprived. And in the middle of the TV show, I looked up and about 50 hot air balloons were floating over our heads. It was one of the most surreal experiences of my entire existence. It was just colours everywhere in the sky. And it would have made for the most amazing Beatles song. And they would not even have had to seek outside inspiration. Real. I think sleep deprivation played a fair amount in the way that I was viewing that. But it's so beautiful. So our plan for this morning, we are going to look for the truant Angama / Olololo pride. And generally speaking, they will come down at some point from one part of the escarpment. I don't know which one. Now, Kirsty is wanting the balloon to silhouette itself up against the sun. Is it going to go? He's going right up, isn't he? Oh, Kirsty, I don't think they're feeling that obliging in that regard. I mean, that's beautiful, but if he'd just been an inch to the right, well, from our perspective, an inch to the right, that would have been tremendously helpful. Maybe he'll come down. Wait, this is jeopardy right here. Maybe as it comes down, it'll pass through the middle of the sun. Must be very warm. Come on, balloon. It's so still this morning that the balloons are basically staying in one place, which is fantastic if they happen to float over something like a lion or some elephants or a rhino. Gives the people in the basket a nice long view. Cheryl says that this is wonderful. It is wonderful. The low-lying mist, the damp, soggy ground, and the rising sun. I've decided that the Mara is a pastel place. It really is. It's a pastel. Oh, goodness gracious. Oh, sorry, ruining the effect of the morning. Let me be quiet if I can hold my sneezes so you can hear the various birds calling as well. Obviously, it's quite soft to my ears as well, but the whole morning is filled with a chorus of frogs, crickets, and yellow-throated longclaws, and rufous-snaped larks. It's the standard soundtrack of the Mara. And the balloon does not want to pass in front of the sun. It just isn't going to. It's gone straight up, and I assume it's going to come straight back down again. But I have blocked up the entire middle of the road, so I probably should get myself moving, provided we can. As you know, standard Mara afternoon yesterday. It rained quite a bit, and as a result, it's quite muddy. Hopefully we'll find some tracks of lions embedded in the mud, but while we search for those, let's go across to Noelle, who's got some tracks in some sand.
I have the most amazing track that we don't get to see fully all the time. I'm just going to let Rexon pass us by. He's on the lookout for lions like we are. We're heading up in that general direction. So first what I want to show you is this little round bit here. And we'll see if any of you can identify this track while I talk about it from this little round bit here. This is the dung of the animal we're talking about. Now, normally when we see this animal, it makes a 7. It puts one foot like this, and looks just like that, and then the second foot, and then the back 2 feet come around in a bounding movement up here to make a 7. Okay. But here, this animal was stopping to feed on this grass. So you can actually see the hocks. It's on its haunches here. Here's the front foot on the left-hand side, and then here's the front foot on the right-hand side, and then these are the haunches going back. And then this part is his front feet that have dug into the soil here, and then it's picked up and eaten with its mouth these little bits of grass. All right, and then this dung, now that I have it, see how fine that is? This dung has come out, it's been re-eaten, and then come out again to get all of the moisture and nutrients out. It's a type of coprophagy. Coprophagy is actually technically eating of something else's dung. When you eat your own dung, it's called refaction. And this is a scrub hare that's been doing this, and this is very fresh. I would estimate that this probably happened about half an hour ago. Nothing longer than that. How amazing. Beautiful little sequence of tracks. We've got some good tracks on the ground today. All right, we are heading off towards Biffleshoek Dam and seeing if we can find any of those Nkuhumas. Rexon's on his way up. Maybe Rexon finds them first. Maybe we find them first. You'll never know. So let's head on over. We're going to walk into the Mawati just over here and try and get down. There's a place that Dobby and I were actually talking about the other day, getting down into the riverbed. That is a really beautiful, beautiful place to walk, and the trees are really tall, and hopefully some good birds as well. So while we're busy making our way there, let's head on over to Scott, who has some very sleepy hyena.
We do have very sleepy hyena, and I wish Noel all the best of luck with trying to find the lion that were at the Buffelshoek Waterhole yesterday evening. They've been kind of up and down, taking it very slowly. The third individual is further down the road, just tucked off in some bushes, and the other two are over here. And I'm guessing they're just going to be up and down slowly this morning, cruising about. They may not even be heading back to their den. They may just spend the day out in the field. No point in heading back to the den, possibly if they're young males. Jabba Pokey, you'd like to know if hyenas are related to wild dogs in any way, and they most certainly are not. And interestingly, hyena are more closely related to cats than dogs. Hard to believe when you look at their anatomy, but that is the case. They are actually in their own family. So you get the cat family, you get the dog family, and then you get the Hyenidae family. So a very unique beast, and one of, I guess, the most impressive and interesting things that hyenas kind of have in terms of their social structure, hierarchy, and even their anatomy, is that the females are stronger and dominant than the males. And in the world of mammals, this is incredibly rare. Okay, here comes the third hyena, catching up with the rest of his crew. Wonderful. Why are you holding your head up like that? Trying to get a better view of us on the car, possibly? Ah, Cheetah, you would like to know that even though the hyena are not related to wild dogs, do they possibly hunt like them? Oh, a little trip over your friend there. And yes, they do hunt like wild dogs. They often hunt together as a clan, and they use their stamina, just like the wild dogs, to tire out their prey. That's why very often with not only hyena but also wild dog, their prey will run into bodies of water to try and escape the predators as they become exhausted. Their kind of final maneuver to try and evade them is to get into water, and that usually does work. Hyenas don't like going into water. We've got another individual who's following the first one, not too far from our vehicle. Come on, guys. We are hoping you're going to lead us to something interesting, like a leopard or some lion. And I'm not sure if James has updated you. He sent me a message on the Game Drive channel that he did have some lion tracks quite close to where Thandi's den is. So let's hope that everything's okay there with Thandi and her little cub. And the third and final individual, they're slowly kind of making their way north. Wonderful. Well, like I said, James did have some lion tracks, and now that these hyenas have moved, we need to get into another spot. So why don't you go and find out exactly what he thinks went on with those lions close to Thandi's den.
I have absolutely no idea what went on here last night, but we did suddenly find some lion tracks. Looks like a lioness with a cub, but it's not impossible that Thandi has walked on top of the tracks afterwards, making it look like a lioness and a cub, because of course Thandi's track looks like a small lion track on account of the fact that she is basically a small lion, in so much as she's a leopard. And so I think there is some kind of upheaval in this area. Now we're on a road called Ingwe Alley, which is appropriate because that means Leopard Alley. And there are a whole lot of pans here on the northern side of the dry riverbed that she was on yesterday. But I see no tracks of her or the lion. And I wonder if she and the cub aren't sort of tucked up inside the little dry riverbed still. And maybe this lion has sort of wandered off towards a waterhole not far from here. Treehouse Dam, I'm thinking. So we're just going to drive very slowly in the golden light and enjoy our Sunday morning drive and hope to see either the tawny sort of outline of a lioness stalking, or ideally Thandi and her little baby. Ah, Mrs. Grumpy, you were worried about the lions being close to Thandi yesterday. This is definitely not the same lions. Well, I mean, it's not impossible that it's the same lions, but the lions you were looking at yesterday, as far as I'm aware, was the Nkuhuma Pride. And they were quite a long way from here. Oh, let's just have a look at those doves, Seb. They look very pretty there on their little branch. Hello, doves. Aren't they pretty, everybody? Pretty doves in the morning. This lioness that I've looked at, or the tracks for which I've seen, I think has come in from the south of the reserve. Isn't that a peaceful scene? Doves on a Sunday? Don't know anybody who doesn't like a dove. And apparently I've just had an update on the radio, and this will be for Noel's benefit. The lovers, Amber Eyes of the Nkuhuma Pride and her consort, I think it was Nana, wasn't it, the warrior, are still in flagrante delicto. What a very pretty little scene we have of these doves just preening themselves before they go to church on Sunday morning. That's what doves do, in case you wondered. So I've heard. Because they're so peaceful, you see. It is not difficult. I don't know why they became the bird of peace. Perhaps somebody can tell us how it is that the dove carried the olive branch and became the bird of peace. I feel like from the endless lessons I had in divinity and biblical studies at the church school I went to, I should remember that, but I don't. So if anyone can tell me why it is that the dove is the bird of peace, and how it came to be carrying the olive branch, if indeed it was carrying the olive branch, I think that's what it was doing, please let me know. Very sweet. Louise has been extremely helpful in the final control. She obviously did not go to a school where they gave her a very thorough biblical education. She says it's got something to do with Greeks. Okay. It might. Thank you, Louise, for your efforts. What is that behind the dove? Yes. It's not a leopard, is it?
You imagine? No, that might be one.
No, it's not. It's moving. I'm sure I saw something moving there. It's not a leopard. There, it's moving. It's an owl. It's a pearl-spotted owl.
Where?
You're looking at it.
Oh, okay, that's okay.
That's
I
a
thought
pearl.
It was a termite mound, but yeah, you're right.
It is not a termite mound. They don't have feathers, Seb. It's a pearl-spotted owl. Well spotted. There we go. Now we know it's a pearl-spotted owl, not from its pearl spots, which you can't see from here, but from the little black spots it's got on the back of its head there, which make it look like it's got eyes on the back of its head. See that? I'm still not getting any kind of adulation from the final control as for the spotting of the pearl-spotted owl. You may now commence with adulation. There we go. I got a very sarcastic "well done, wow" from them. Very sweet little owl, and it would go for one of these doves. I don't think they've seen it though, lurking in the shadows. Maybe because it's summer, it won't. Isn't that cool? They're all cleaning themselves. Ben, thank you for your comment. A bird in the bush is worth two on the branch. Thank you, Ben. Anybody with the olive branch got better answer than Louise's "it's got to do with Greeks"? I'll have to look it up myself. Oh, here we go. Apparently we do have a thought. Louise is offended. Perhaps she was right. Ah. Thank you. Right, I got it. I should have remembered that. Vesper, thank you very much. Noah released a dove from his ark. Vast craft it must have been to have carried all few million species that we get here on Earth anyway, and he released the dove, and the dove returned with the olive branch to indicate that it had found land. Thank you. How it then became the peace bird, I'm not sure. Lady Starfire says Louise is correct. Her husband, who studied religion, says that it does have to do with the Greeks, but I'm not sure what it has to do with the Greeks. And then I don't know if this comment was from Lady Starfire or from the final control when they said, "How do you like them apples?" I think that was probably from Louise in the final control, yes. And that is to quote the great Will Ferrell, I think. All right, Ralph Kirsten, all the way in the Masai Mara, has got himself a lot of precipitation in the form of condensed precipitation and something about to come out of it.
Thanks, James, and everybody. We've managed to make our way through the puddles and the sloshy, slippery, slidey roads, and we've come out here at the hyena den towards the Tanzanian border, and we've got a lot of mist around, and it's making for a really eerie kind of atmosphere or ambiance. There's a lot of spiders' webs just glistening in the sunlight, but there's a few adults here around the den, no cubs as yet, and this female was walking around sticking her nose into the holes, and I wonder if the cubs are actually sleeping at the moment. But it's really a wonderful feeling here next to the den, especially sitting in this mist. It's quite fresh, and but unfortunately the adults are a little bit snoozy at the moment. There's one there, and then there's a couple more. So it's not just a babysitter that's here at the moment. There's some of the other ones, and just poking her head out, looking at me. Probably can hear me talking and wondering what we're all about. But it's just nice to get a feeling. Look at the spider's webs. with all that moisture and dew on them glistening in the light as it pokes through now. The mist is starting to slowly lift, and so we'll get more and more light, but the color changing constantly, so it is making for a very interesting start to the morning. Look at that kind of atmosphere. It's really quite eerie. We're at about 14 degrees centigrade, 57 degrees Fahrenheit. Now, Dr. Rob, you'd like to know if the hyenas are larger in the Masai Mara or in Djuma. Dr. Rob, I haven't noticed too much of a difference in their individual size. What I have noticed is that it seems to me that these ones in the Mara possibly eat a little bit more than the ones in Djuma, because they're constantly very well engorged, if I can say that. Ooh, is that actually one, a little cub suckling there, I think. In terms of individual body mass, it doesn't seem to be that much different between the two places. However, what I have noticed is the much larger size of the clans here in the Masai Mara. And here we've got 80 plus in this one particular clan, whereas in Djuma it seems to be quite a bit smaller groups, maybe around 10 or 15 of them, maybe even 20, but definitely not the size clans that we've got up here in the Masai Mara. And apparently this is a sort of average size. Some of them over the river are hitting over 130 individual animals, and so this one can still grow quite a bit more. But there is a little bit of a cub boom at the moment, so there are lots of youngsters around, and that could lead to more youngsters soon, and so that would increase their numbers here quite substantially. But look at that, and we can hear some impala off in the distance just doing their sort of rutting noises. So while we sit here and hopefully see some of the cubs come out, let's head you on back to Djuma on the bushwalk.
Hi everyone, we have an injury that's occurred from our cameraman Davi.
Oh no.
He has a horrible thorn in his finger. I'm having to bend down. I'm too tall for Davi to film properly. I'm going to stand up now, and Davi's going to bring out his hand, and Dr. Herbie is going to perform some surgery on him, because it's hard for Davi to grip the camera with his injury. There's his injury, right in that little crook of the finger. So this is what you do if you're lost in the bush and you get thorns. You find an acacia thorn, and you pick all the skin off, apparently, says Dr. Herbie. Davi, you're really brave to be doing this. Herbie, this is taking a while. It is very graphic. Sorry, guys, but here we go. So now you've got all the skin that's sort of built up, not built up around it, but after that little splinter went in there. And then it's gone. Yay, Dr. Herbie.
Thanks,
oh, there's
Herbie.
one piece that's left. Oh, that didn't look nice. All out.
Yay.
There we are. Thanks, Dr. Herbie.
Thanks, Herbie.
Bush Dr. Herbie with his little acacia thorns. And then Herbs and Davi and I were talking about this very cool thing here. So this is the cocoon from a lunar moth. And Herbie was saying Herbie got a new book the other day, and he's been reading his new book, and one of the things he found in his new book was this. So now he showed me this. So this is my new thing I'm learning for today. Herbie and I are always exchanging information along the way, and he says that the little dots on the side there are one of the ways that you can tell it's from a lunar moth, and then the tip, that's where it was connected. Well, that's where it was connected to the tree, but also where the lunar moth comes out. Now, our lunar moth, I'm just going to drop this. A lunar moth is the size of my hand. Okay, so that's big. And it's green, 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 fluorescent green. It's one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. Okay, now that the surgery is complete, and we've talked a little bit about a lunar moth, we got an update that there's some lion tracks following some buffalo tracks. So we were actually going to head up to Biffleshoek Dam. However, we have now changed our minds. We're going to go help these lions, or help track these lions that are following these buffalo. So we're actually going to start heading a little bit back the way that we came, and see what we can find. Maybe we get lucky. It's going to be really interesting and find more areas like this with beautiful mud pans and hopefully some buffalo and lions. So I believe that Jamie is up in the Mara and she has something she wants to show you. Something beautiful and landscape-ish. So let's go on up to her while we are busy trying to see what we can do with buffalo and lion.
I am indeed. I am in the Mara, and there's something that I would love to show you because it's going to be an evolving storyline over the next few weeks, and that is the behavior of the Topi antelope, a subspecies of the Sabi, which is of course the fastest antelope that we have out here. So there we go, there is a herd of Topi, females and males, and of course the little ones wandering about in the dewy, wet grass. And it's a beautiful scene, mist rising off the Mara River, or at least the swampy areas around the Mara River. And what they've been doing is they've been chasing each other away, or around, not so much away, but around. And the reason behind that is we are coming up to Topi breeding season soon. And one of the fascinating things about Topi is that they actually, in different areas, they change their reproductive behavior almost completely, depending upon where they are. Okay, let me rephrase that. They don't change their behavior, but there is a very wide spectrum of behavior depending upon where you happen to see a Topi antelope. Here, in the Mara, what they do is they form something known as a lek. That's L-E-K. And this is known as lekking behavior, which gives rise to all sorts of confusion when we say it, because of course we are South Africans and our vowels are not always very distinct. Now, lekking behavior is basically where they all group together in a group, funnily enough, and the dominant males are in the center and the less dominant males are sort of around the periphery, and they will fight for the right to mate with the females. But here's the fun part. The females join in as well. So the females have a preference when it comes to choice of mate. They obviously want to mate with the most dominant ones because that's the strongest possible genetic contribution to next year's offspring. Oh, look. Young male. Mounting behavior. Hey, he's got the right idea. He's trying to get this all done early, but he hasn't quite made the distance yet. She turned around and looked at him. What are you doing? Was that successful or was it not successful? I'm going with unsuccessful, and I think he's going to try again. There's the courting behavior. Watch his front legs. Watch how he's tapping the back legs of the female. He's also every now and again sniffing underneath her tail. That's to see whether or not she is in estrus. I think he's jumped the gun a little bit. I think he's a little bit too early. But hormone levels are increasing, and of course the male's responding to that. So that explains why they've all been galloping about. Now here's the fun part. That presumably for him was the fun part. But here's the fun part in terms of us watching this process, is that females have a preference for dominant males, and what they will sometimes do... Oh, he's gone for another female. No luck with that one. Off he goes to the right. There's another one. Oh, no. Or is that a young male being chased away? Look at the speed of these antelope. One tiny Tommy avoiding the chaos. Now stretching out, not quite reaching their full speed, water spraying everywhere, chasing each other around in circles. I think that's another male. Personally, I don't think that's a female. He doesn't want me to tell the story of the females, which I think is very rude. There goes the water spraying up. Isn't it beautiful? I mean, this is all relatively playful for now, although I don't think that the guy at the back is taking it too lightly. Cross the road, he's almost caught him there. I'm not entirely sure what his aim is just to maybe chase that male away from that herd of females. And that male is not having any of it. Here he comes back again. So not quite brave enough not to... Oh, there we go. We're going to clash. Yes, no? Yes. The guy on the left, clearly the aggressor here, and actually clearly larger than the one on the right. A delicate dance between these two males, barely making contact. The man on the right, or the male Topi on the right, has reached the limit of how far he is prepared to be pushed away from the females, and now he's going to fight to stay on the periphery. Hey, Kirst, it's a very familiar scene, is it not? Kirsty, of course, is our director this morning. We've had a very similar scene in the past with two Topi fighting. Kirsty says she's the one on the left. Last time we named the two fighting Topi Kirsty and Jamie. Don't ask me why. I can't remember how that came about. I'm pretty sure it was Kirsty's idea. So Kirsty says she is now the one on the left, which I think is grossly unfair, but she got there before me. Okay, so Kirsty's the one on the left, Jamie's the one on the right, and Jamie's taking advantage of the high ground, which of course is the best way to go. Clashing together. I would get closer, but I'm not sure which way they're going to run or if they're going to run, so I'm just going to wait patiently for a little bit. Besides, it's such a beautiful scene. Kirsty, you're on your elbows now. No, on your wrists. I feel like Jamie's pushing back now. Wait, have I got them confused? I think I've got them confused. Whoa! The aim of the game here, or at least the aim of the fight, I don't think we can call it a game at this stage. Too close to breeding season. Oh, slippery! Careful. One of us just did the splits, I'm not sure which. The aim is to pin the other male's head to the ground in a show of strength, and that's what they're trying to do here. But horns are slippery, the ground is slippery, and they are sliding all over the show. It's good to know it's not just us. Pushing forward. Jabberpokey. I do hope Jabberpokey? Jabberpokey. Yep, Jabberpokey. Now you want to know if the females are losing their horns over time in the same way Thompson's gazelle are, or female Thompson's gazelle. And my answer is no. They are not, and that actually really, I'm very grateful for your question because it allows me to tell the story of the females. So, the females like to mate with the dominant males. And what they will do is they will actually actively interrupt the mating process between that male and another female. So they're actually quite jealous, female Topi. There are a lot of theories about why it is that animals have, either the females have horns or they don't. In the case of both female Topis and female Thompson's gazelle, I'm going to try and get a little bit closer while we talk about this. The females have horns. In something like a kudu or an inyala, they do not. And the main reason behind that is the type of habitat that they live in. But even though Thompson's gazelle live out in the open, it seems as though on an evolutionary level it looks like the female Thompson's gazelle are losing their horns. Obviously there's no advantage to them having them. It's a bit of a confusing one, the Thompson's gazelle. But no, Topi very much, the females have their horns. You'll notice with female Thompson's gazelle, their horns are thin, they start to cross, they just aren't very effective looking at all. Male antelope will have horns because they have to do this. They have to fight for a female. I don't want them to stop, so I don't want to distract anybody here. I've completely lost track of which antelope is which, but they are really seriously getting into it now. This will be good training. You can see how they're sliding about in the mud, really going for it. This is not playful anymore. This is not full-on mating behavior. And hello to Lily, who is 7 years old. Lily, it's lovely to hear you once again. I'm glad you're watching. Now, Lily would like to know if their horns ever get caught together. And the answer is with Topi, probably not. Because you can see their horns are quite short. So it would be difficult for them to get into the position where they would get caught together. But Lily is absolutely right. Some antelope do get their horns caught together. Something like a kudu is a very good example. And there are cases where kudu have actually died as a result of a serious fight like this where their horns have locked. They've got for those of you who are unfamiliar, they've got the tall spiraling horns. They actually lock together and they can't get away. And they eventually starve. It's a very sad thing to witness. I have seen it a few times in my life. Oh, that is the muddiest part of the road in there. I'm just going to be quiet. You can hear the horns clashing together. Oh! That was a serious attack there. The Topi at the back seems to be the one who is got the advantage. Look at the mud spraying. This is really quite serious now. You can see they're covered in mud. They've slipped everywhere, neither willing to give up the advantage that they have in order to back out of this muddy section. As a result, they've slid all over the show. Their nose, imagine how much mud they have up their noses as they slam each other's heads down into the sand. Ouch. Josh, apparently you reckon that Jamie is winning. Oh, really locking horns there. Josh, I agree, but Kirsty believes that is favoritism, and she disapproves. In fact, I'm quite surprised she even fed your comment through, Josh. My joints are aching at the thought of what their legs are currently doing. You know, they've got these thin, spindly legs. Of course they're strong, they're very strong, but they're sliding about in the mud at the most painful-looking angles. Neither of them seem to have noticed, but if one walks away with a limp, I will not be at all surprised. They've actually, you know, at second glance, they're pretty evenly matched, these two. One's got slightly longer horns, one's got slightly stubbier horns. They're tiring. The guy at the back is looking really quite exhausted, but still going in for the assault. I think he's starting to back away, though. Look at them sinking into the mud. I'm going to sit and watch how this fight of the year plays out. But while we do, we want to take advantage of the mist while it sticks around. Let's go and join Ralph for a stunning scene elsewhere.
And stunning it is indeed. Thanks, Jamie. I'm sure that Topi's fighting is very interesting indeed, as it always is. But this, for me, is absolutely enthralling, because it's an area that I've come to quite regularly, near to the hyena den, but it is absolutely totally different this morning with the mist around, and we've got another big herd of buffalo here, and they're making for a very eerily type atmosphere or ambiance. And yes, we've stayed unstuck for the time being, and we haven't been too worried about that. We're just sticking to the tracks, but there is a lot of water around, and that's probably why we've got a lot of this mist this morning. But as we pan across, you can see the quite large buffalo herd here, but quite different in the mist. And then as we continue going, we'll start to see the Olololo escarpment in the background eventually. But a nice big herd spread out over quite a big area around us now. And that's very nice to see the kind of feeling that we have. That Olololo escarpment is going to show up somewhere, but it just gives you quite an indication, actually, of it's really thick mist. And there's the pole in the back, but there you can see the escarpment now. So it's starting to clear a little bit, but it's still quite fresh and cool and very, very wet. All the animals, especially the little guys, I saw some jackals on the way here, and they were very wet. There were some warthogs as well, very wet. And then I was wondering, maybe that's the reason why those hyena cubs are still denned up or holed up in their den. Maybe it's been quite a long night for them. Maybe they stayed awake a bit with it being cold and wet, and so now with it clearing a little bit, maybe they're nice and sleepy. And so I'm going to continue on, try not to get stuck, and look for more beautiful sights such as this. And speaking of beautiful sights, Jamie still with her fighting Topi. Let's go on over to her.
A beautiful but somewhat dramatic sight, I would say, as our Topi continue their battle. They really are. Oh, one guy on the right's got a bit of an advantage. He's got the dry land of the road. And one on the left, I think, is tiring. And it's all, I think I'm imagining it, but well, you know, no time to take a break, I suppose. Respect. No respect. I was about to say the one on the right respected the moment. Privacy. No, he has. He has. There we go. And back in. Gentleman's agreement right there. Pee break for all concerned. I think they've just realised we're watching them. Our own, yes, absolutely. Predators could potentially take advantage of Topi mating rituals, just in the same way that they do where the rutting behavior of male impala is seen in South Africa. The males get so distracted and so caught up, and I imagine if what I understand to be true about the females is actually the case, then I imagine that the females are also pretty distracted as well, all around making for great hunting conditions for potential predators, taking full advantage. Big male cheetahs, lions, leopards will all be able to capitalize on the distraction of the Topi. Oh, they're looking a little tired. Could this be time for a break, or is this just round two? Now that solid footing has been regained, if I were the Topi on the left, and I'm not entirely sure that I am, if I were the Topi on the left, I would be aiming to get onto the road again. Increase traction. What do you say, boys? The one on the right definitely seems to be pressing home an advantage. You can see it's not serious, or not entirely serious, because they do stop every now and again to look around. I think that once they really get into the heat of the breeding season, they will become far more focused. I think the chap on the left is actually... No, I was wrong. Imagine slamming your wrists, okay, because that's where they bend in front on the antelope's legs. That's their equivalent of a wrist. They have incredibly extended carpals. So the wrist is actually what bends in the same direction your wrist does. If you put your hand forward towards the inner part of your arm, that's their wrists where you think their knees are, or their elbows are. That's their wrists. Now imagine them slamming down onto the rough and rocky road repeatedly. I imagine if we could get close enough to them to zoom in, we'd probably see that they're missing quite a bit of skin around those patches. Here we go. Are we done now, boys? Is that it? So who won? I think the guy on the left won. He's the one who's going back towards the females. San Diego. Kirsty says she won, first of all. Oh, a bit of a limp. I thought we might see a little bit of stiffness in their legs. Now, San Diego, you want to know if they will ever fight to the death. It's unlikely, but it is possible. Sometimes death can occur accidentally when male antelope fight like this. The occasional horn through the lung would be an example. He's snorting at the females. He's returning to the females, looking very pleased with himself. Or possibly just looking for some space to poop. There's the balloon, hot air balloon in the background. Look at him, full of pride, dashing back towards the females and snorting as he goes. His rival is to my right, snorting as well, and the female's not all that impressed. Well, we've reached the end of our range. Hold on a second. So, It seems as though love is in the air, whether we're in Mara or we're in Djuma, because Scott has managed to find a pair of courting lions.
We certainly have. We're just going to show you around the area that they are romancing before we show you the lions. They're a little bit sleepy at the moment. So we're at Buffelshoek Waterhole, and this courting pair of lions that we'll show you shortly were here from yesterday morning, and it appears like the rest of the pride has moved quite a long way off. James has just tracked them sadly out of Djuma. Here's a little family of Egyptian geese and their goslings. How cute. And the first time I saw these goslings, there were only 4 of them, so they've done well to keep the remaining little chicks alive. I'm fairly certain there would have been more than 4 that would have hatched, but sadly they are on the menu of many a predator. Awesome stuff. It's hard to believe that they can actually escape anything, considering that they can't fly. Their kind of cryptic camouflage helps them to disappear if there are any threats. And their parents are also quite ferocious when it comes to defending them. Now we've got ourselves into a nice low angle looking up on towards the mating pair. As we arrived onto the scene, the big male had just finished taking a drink, so sadly we missed that. It would have been wonderful to see him having a drink. And now we just have to sit and wait patiently for them to do their next round of mating. Now, they seem to be kind of on the go slow. Lions and leopards can mate very frequently once they're in full swing of things. And that doesn't appear to be the case with these guys just yet. Not too sure why. Of course, there is lots of time that we have spent away from them, so we have no idea how busy they've been when we haven't been around. And of course, if they've been very busy while we're away, then understandably they're kind of taking a little bit more slowly now that it's beginning to warm up a little bit. But I'm confident that if we stay here for long enough, we will get hopefully some wonderful views of them mating. I'm not too sure which lioness this is, so if any of you can help me work out who, in fact, this lady is. Oh, great news. Well, it was confirmed yesterday that it is Amber Eyes. Quite a distinctive lioness. She's a beautiful big lioness, and happy to hear that she's busy making the next set of Nkuhuma babies. And the big male is known as Nena. He's part of a coalition of 4 big males. We've got no idea where the other 4 could be. But he has cleverly got himself into a fortunate position. Just him here, no competition from his partners. And I'd love to know how they kind of, which male gets the luckiest out of all 4. There definitely is dominance between the 4 of them and a hierarchy. And I'm fairly certain that one of them will probably be the luckiest when it comes to mating. But you'll get situations like this when, one male stumbles upon a female in season and he's simply got no competition from his coalition members, and therefore he can cash in regardless of his hierarchy within the coalition. Okay, very good. Well, we're not going to go anywhere. We're going to stay put here until they decide to make love again and send you back to James to see what he's getting up to.
Well, what I'm getting up to is a lot of unsuccessfulness. I'm not sure that's a word. We found some tracks of buffalo being followed by lions close by to where I said that we had the lion tracks near Thandi's den, and we followed those all the way to the west. They got fresher and fresher and fresher, started to steam. We got so excited, and then they crossed west into Arathusa, and we can't go there, which is very irritating. Now we come back to Treehouse Waterhole, and we're going to continue our search for Thandi, but obviously very distracted by the thought of lions murdering buffalo. So let's just have a stop by here and see. Ooh, look at all the features. You see them, Seb? All of them enjoying the morning light. Woodland kingfishers, everybody. Fantastic that we managed to find an animal. Very exciting. And it's always good to just stop here for a little while. See if there isn't some kind of other action going on here. And there's another bird there called a red-backed shrike, just below where the kingfisher was. You've got him there.
Okay, yeah, see.
Snorky, you say such a colourful bird? Yes, many colours indeed. The red-backed shrike is now flown away because it's not very confiding. Let's just listen for 15 seconds, everybody. Shh, quiet, everybody. Oh, hang on. She's on the road there. We'll be turning round now. Copy, I will be there. I'm at Treehouse Dam. Please, can I make my way? Thandi has been found on the road where we were looking. So she was around there. We thought she was around there. Very exciting. She's on the road. I get there, let's get across to Noel and find out what she's doing. I will be driving at quite a speed. Bye-bye.
Hello! So the saddest news I've had all morning was that those lions went over into Aratuza, the ones that were following the buffalo. So that has put an interesting spin on our plan for this morning. It's now very hot. We just stopped and had a water break. It is very important to hydrate yourself. So I think we're going to concentrate on looking for elephants. So we're not going to make it back up towards Biffleshoek Dam because we basically walked halfway across the property in the other direction. But I think we're going to start checking these blocks for any signs of elephants as they come towards water. As it gets warm, they're going to get very thirsty, just like we do. And we're busy standing here in an area where you can actually see has been hit quite heavily by elephants. So you can see there's a knobthorn tree that's been knocked down. There's lots of branches that have been ripped off. We're not far from a water hole here. So as they either leave the water hole or come towards the water hole, they'll browse a bit. Now, this type of destruction is fine. Doesn't mean that there's an overpopulation by any means. It just means that we're closer to water. If it looked like this everywhere, it would mean possibly that we have an overpopulation of elephants. But let's head on over to this knobthorn tree. Actually, we can probably do this one here. You can actually see where it's been pushed over, and it was pushed over when it was still quite green and fresh. So they haven't broken the whole thing off. They've just done this so that they can access all of the leaves that would have come off the branches here. And we know it's a knobthorn because of these knobs here. Now, I've read that you can take these knobs and crush them up and make a paste out of them, and it can help stop nosebleeds if you put it here on your nose. I've never personally tried it myself. I've also heard that traditionally if you make, Herbie, you must tell me if this is true or not, because I've read this and I don't know if I believe it. If you make a necklace out of these knobs and wear it, it helps promote breast growth as well as protection from breast cancer. Is that true, Herbie? Herbie's saying it's true. All right, then. So there we go. Now we have Rolf, who's up in the Mara. Hi, Rolf. We miss you. We are going to head up to him, and he has something on the ground that he wants to show you. So enjoy that, and we'll keep carrying on, now looking for elephants.
Yes, thank you. And this is quite a lovely sight here. It looks like a juvenile fish eagle, quite motley, and when they're changing their colors from sub-adult or immature to adult, they can look a little bit weird. Oh, lovely takeoff, but definitely a fish eagle, also from the way it's flying and the sort of shape and size of it. That's lovely to see. Still with the mist in the background a little bit. It's gone and landed on one of the gardenias running along this laga. Maybe just trying to see, because there's a lot of fish that with all these little rivers or drainage lines now flowing, there's a lot of catfish that you can see that are accessing areas that are normally dry. And what my feeling is you've got water now flowing over predominantly dry patches, and so you can have all sorts of grubs and worms and things coming to the surface of the soil, which is now covered by water, and so I'm sure that these catfish are seeking out all these little tidbits of food that they normally wouldn't have access to being in the river away from these areas. So there's obviously now lots of opportunity for the catfish, and hence quite a good opportunity for birds of prey, which can catch fish as well. So I'm pretty sure that's why this immature is quite interested in being down close to these little streams that are starting to flow, because there's catfish all over the place, and so I'm sure it's quite an easy meal. But he's obviously interested by all the movement and the little plops on the surface of the water. I don't know if he's quite worked out how to catch them yet, but he's been attracted down towards the water, and so we're just going to sit here and see if he attempts to catch any of these fish in the little stream. But look at that, we've still got a beautiful setting with the mist in the background. It's slowly lifting now with the sun getting a little bit higher, but it's still very pretty, and it's changing all the time, the colors and the light. It's making for a fantastic scene, and a very different drive this morning indeed from yesterday. A little bit wetter, but lots more mist. Now, Jacqueline, you want to know what is their wingspan? Well, their size is sort of up to about 80 centimeters. So it's just on going a meter. And so their wingspan is around 1.5 meters, if I'm not mistaken. So it's not one of the largest of the eagle's wingspans. One of the largest being that of the crowned eagle, and they need that huge wingspan to be able to lift big prey up off the ground. And they don't just have a very long reach, they also have a very broad wing, enabling them to lift very heavy weights. And included in that is the Vero eagle as well, or the old black eagle, a very big wingspan on them too. So the largest being the black eagle or Vero's eagle, the crowned eagle, and also the martial eagle. They're all about that 1.5 meter or so, so probably about 2 yards, somewhere in that region. But this is an immature, so it's not fully grown just yet. It's almost at that stage, but the colouring, the biggest difference between this sub-adult and an adult, it would be turning a little bit full white on where it has the patchy white now, and then like a browny colour for the rest of the body. But you can see that it's looking down into the water quite intently. I don't think it can quite work out how it's going to grab those catfish, because they're quite wily and the water's quite dirty as well. So for it to actually see the fish would be quite difficult. But you can see all the them coming to the surface. So it's probably what's attracted him. But now he's got to work out how to catch them. It's quite a difficult prey, I think, for fish eagle to catch catfish, because they're quite flat and they have a very bony skull. So for them to actually get their talons into the head part would be quite difficult, and that's mostly what's coming to the surface, and they keep the rest of their body, which is soft and would be easily grabbed by the talons of a fish eagle. That part stays a little bit further submerged. So that's probably one of their tactics to enable them not to be caught by fish eagles per se. They're more the prey of crocodiles, but I've never really seen a fish eagle take a catfish. I've seen them mostly taking fish like tilapia. They're very interesting to see. And yes, and always nice to see a sub-adult. It means the next generation coming through for the fish eagles. We do hear them calling quite a lot. That not very good this morning. I've got to lick my lips a bit and get that singing going a bit better. But very iconic call of the fish eagle. And this one just better positioning itself in this gardenia overlooking this little stream. And so we're going to stay here and see what happens with this immature fish eagle. But talking of fish and birds and water, let's head on over to Scott, who I think has got a bird drinking.
We did have a bird drinking, but it fluttered off, not as accommodating as Ralph's young fish eagle. And the two lovers have not been very active since she left us. There's been just about no movement from them, but it is just a matter of time until they need to do the deed again. So we will sit and wait patiently in the hope that we're going to get some epic views of them mating as and when they do, because we've got ourselves into a very fortunate position that we're kind of eye level with them because they're elevated up on a bank. So VM and I are both looking forward to, some movement is good. Okay, watch here. How good is that timing? You couldn't have joined at a better time. Please. Ooh, okay, amber eyes. Giving in a little bit more love, please. Now, ideally she rolls over and faces straight towards us. Oh, come on. I might have to reposition the vehicle very quickly, depending on where she puts herself. Because... let me just move now. A little bit. That's not going to work, but thankfully they decided not to mate. Whew, what a relief. I made the wrong decision as to where to go there. I thought we would have been able to get high enough up to see them, but clearly we didn't. This seems like a decent enough spot to wait. Now I'm really surprised that with that little bit of movement, Nina wasn't a little bit more proactive with trying to mate with it, but clearly she wasn't as welcoming as we would have liked her to be. What's up, Amber Eyes? You're not entirely certain about Nina? Would you have preferred one of the other 3 coalition members? It appears like possibly you would have. Oh, we've got some wonderful news. James has got himself into a very fortunate position with Thandi and her baby.
Once again, I find myself amazed by the beauty of Thandi, and equally our desire to watch animals mate with each other. She seems to be about to stalk a duiker. A duiker came running past. The duiker's got no idea that she's here. Now the cub is stalking the duiker. She will inevitably make a complete hash of it. This is very sweet. Duiker came bucketing through here as fast as it could. In fact, the duiker is now stalking Thandi. It doesn't realize it's stalking her. Yeah. The duiker is now very close by. Welcome to everybody who's just joined us. We're sitting here in the Greater Kruger National Park with a leopardess who has got her eyes on a small antelope called a duiker. Please ask as many questions as you'd like. I'm not going to show you my face right now. My name is James, so you can ask me any questions you like. She's also got a cub in here. And this little antelope, this little duiker, has come running past her, totally oblivious to this leopard standing out in the open. The cub has kind of disappeared. I mean, this is not very serious hunting behavior, but these cats will take any opportunity they can to hunt. And so we'll just sit here for a little while, nice and quietly, and see what she does. So, I mean, if she was on a serious stalk, you wouldn't expect her to be sitting there scratching her neck. Hello, Lloyd. You say she's so beautiful. Yes, she certainly is. Absolutely magnificent. Known as the Prince of Cats. She's now giving a little bit of a snarl at the vehicle behind us. See there now, she's looking. She's looking at the duiker. Her cub's in there. Oh, I can see the cub now. I'm going to move very slightly. Have you got the cub? Now you may feel like you're sitting on a Parisian street right now because of the accent you've just heard. That is Sebastian, the cameraman. A question from Alan, which I missed. Well, I don't know, Alan. It's a good question. You say, why didn't she call the cub back? Look at that. Isn't that just too gorgeous for words? See, she's just giving us a little snarl every so often, saying, stay there, I'm moving my baby. Oh, that is just too precious. That cub is now 9 or 10 weeks old, just starting to eat meat. Oh, it's just too sweet. Isn't that wonderful? Please excuse this thing sitting over here. It is one of our sort of filming tools. It's a drone, which carries a very nice camera on it. But we're not going to buzz over these beautiful cats. I think on a Sunday morning, a buzzing drone is something they don't want to see. There's not a great view over here. Let me just move slowly past. They're in these thick bushes over here. Just going to move as silently as possible. There's the little cub looking at us with Mum. There we go. How's that, Seb? Is that fine? We're going to talk as quietly as possible. We don't want to disturb them at all. Oh, the little thing's obviously been moving quite a lot this morning. It's looking a bit tired. And that little mewling sound that it's making, which we can't quite hear, is because she wants some milk. See, she wants some milk now, Lorraine. I know exactly what you mean. You say you love how the cub flops its feet when it walks. It does look like it walks with very heavy feet, doesn't it? Oh, it's just too wonderful. Let's keep going. I'm just going to start off. Let's drive very slowly. There they go. Together. Into this sort of thicketed area where there have been a lot of duiker lately. And it would not surprise me if she flushed one, jumped on it, and then dragged it into a tree for consumption a bit later on. There's a bird alarm calling at her now. And Tammy, you say this is so precious. Oh, it is. This is the best way to spend a morning. There she is. You got her there. Now she's lifted her tail like that because there are birds alarm calling. You can hear the birds going, and she's lifting that tail as almost a sort of flag of truce. David, you're wondering how far she'll go with the cub? It really does depend how far she wants to. I think the furthest she'd probably take it would be probably a mile or two. I don't think she'd go much further than that. We're going to follow her from behind here. What we don't want to do is try and loop around the front of her either miss her or flush perhaps some potential prey for her by getting in, sort of frightening it out of the way. There are now lots of little birds and squirrels alarm calling, and so if you next time we see her, you'll see her, the white tail tip up as a flag of truce to all of the potential creatures she could eat. There we go. Very sweet. Janet, do you want to know at what age this little thing's going to start eating meat? Janet, it will have started already, but it will wean at about 3 months. So they wean pretty quickly, between 3 or 4 months. And it's now 10 weeks old, and I keep saying it, we're pretty sure it's a female, a little she cat. All right, for those of you watching us on this unscheduled broadcast, we're going to let you get on with your Sunday morning or evening or afternoon or wherever you happen to be in the world. For those who want to keep on watching, please Google Safari Live and you'll find one of our platforms, and you can keep on watching Thandi and her cub. See you soon. Okay, we're going to stay with this cub as long as we can. Let's head back across to Jamie Patterson. She seems to have something probably still in the mist in the Masai Mara, and it's grey.
What wonderful news that Thandi has been found with her little one. And speaking of little ones, lots of little elephants wandering about the plains close to the Samaki swamp this morning. Loads of elephants wandering about. I've seen probably close to 100 this morning. Most of them disappeared off into the forest close to the Mara River, but we've still got some stragglers left behind, including this female and her youngster. And then hopefully soon the tiny baby that I've seen heading in our direction might make an appearance as well. Oh, she's coming right towards us. How wonderful. Hello, Mum. You going to bring your baby to say hello? I promised the viewer who put forward this phrase that it would become a catchphrase that I was going to steal, but a day without elephants is absolutely a day wasted. Well, she looks like she's got I can't tell if that's just because of where the water is or if she's actually got a sore eye on the right there. No, I think it's just because it's got water around it. It just looked a little bit swollen and a little bit uncomfortable if I compared it to the eye on the right. Is that an injury? It's possible. Elephants do injure their eyes occasionally, especially when they walk into sharp branches or twigs while they're feeding. Less likely to happen for these ellies because they don't spend too much time in the forest. But they will still wander into those clumps of trees at the back that you can see. Maybe it's an injury. Hopefully she'll get a little bit closer and we'll be able to examine it and see whether or not it is. There's little mini-me wandering behind her. The safety of Mum's bulk, always there. It's always a pleasure to see elephants, and especially on a morning as stunning as this morning is. The air is so clean. Okay, it's a bit muddy, but it is so clean. There's not a breath of wind. The sun is shining. It's one of those idyllic mornings. Here's a young male by the looks of things on her right. Probably her young male. Almost at the stage where it's time for him to think about moving out of home. Well, since this is such a peaceful sighting, there's no need to rush anything, but we want to spend as much time as possible with Thandi's cub before she grows up right in front of our eyes.
She's just come through this lovely clearing here and disappeared into the bushes. But she is, I think, making her way back towards the road, it looks like now. There she goes. I'll try and nip round to the road quickly. There she is. Let me just get onto the road here. Doesn't seem to have hunted anything. Yeah, we'll get a nice view here. Seb coming out on the left. There they go. Little cub is interested in us. And although I think she obviously experiences a little bit of fear when she sees us, I think it's important this, because while she's with Mum, she obviously takes her cue from her mother. And we want her to be totally relaxed around vehicles. And if this is the kind of experience she has, she will eventually grow up completely relaxed around the cars. Now I'm going to go back up onto the road. Trying to also see the size of the little tracks. They're about the size of a big civet now. They're unusually large for the size of the actual cat. They're going towards a pan now. Try and get into a decent position here. I must say, this leopard does give me the runaround. It might come out in front of us. There we go. She'll come out there to the left, to the right. Probably give us a little bit of a snarl as she goes past. That's what she does when she sees us. There it is. And there's the little one. Mum's just walking straight down this path. Oh, wonderful picture of Marvin there. Marvin is really in a bit of an awkward position. Oh, there we got the cub. Norma, you say the cub seems very bright and alert. Well, yes, I think if you are sort of dim-witted and slow out here, you die very quickly. I would agree with you. She is very bright and very alert. There you go. I think they're going to go down into this little drainage system here. There we go. Look at them. It's too magic. I'm just trying to stay a little bit hidden behind the bushes there. They will do that, of course. If they feel slightly threatened, they'll put things between themselves and us. Oh, too sweet. Alrighty. I'm not sure how much more we're going to have of them. This gets very thick. Just do a whip around. Sabi, you're wondering how we say leopard in my African dialect. Well, the language that is spoken out here is called Shangaan, and the word for leopard in Shangaan is Ingwe, and so that's how you say it, Ingwe. And if you wanted to say a small leopard, you'd say Shingwana. So Ingwe plus Ana plus Shi on the front. Shingwana. We're going to go around on the road here. Gearbox is making a dreadful noise. Okay, while we do that, let's have a across to Noel, we'll try and get another view of these wonderful leopards.
We have a really great tree here. We mentioned it the other day when we were talking about conserved trees or trees that we don't see a lot of. This is one of them. James was just talking about Shangaan names. The Shangaan name for this is the Nkuhuma tree, named the pride of lions, the two that Scott's looking at. Well, one's a Birmingham male, but they were named after the Nkuhuma tree because they were found lying underneath them, or so the story has been told to me. The English name for this is a brown ivory. And it is a gorgeous tree. It takes forever to grow. So this specimen is quite old. Maybe 100 years, if not more. They really grow very, very slowly. But what I'm finding super interesting right now is you can actually see some of the fruits. And I've never seen a fruit of a brown ivory before, because I honestly haven't spent that much time with them. And usually the ones that you do see are very large and you use it as a landmarker. So there are the fruits there. Birds and monkeys can eat them. And then I also want you to notice the back side of this leaf, this venation, actually sticks out. You can feel it. It's very rough. And then on the opposite side, it's indented. And this is one of the ways that you tell when a brown ivory is small, is this leaf pattern. Very, very distinctive. So Steve talks a lot about leaves. This is a simple leaf. It's a simple opposite leaf, meaning there's the auxiliary buds. They're at the tip of my very dirty fingernail. Sorry, we've been trepping through the bush. And then opposite because they're growing opposite each other. Absolutely gorgeous tree. Now, you're not supposed to cut down these trees at all. You're supposed to just leave them. They do make some decent firewood. As far as I know, you can also make implements out of them, but because we can't cut them down, I don't have any wooden implements, and they also make good walking sticks. I'm sure there's a few other good uses for them. Herbie's just checking our perimeter, but I'll ask him if he knows anything else or maybe has a local story to share with us, and we'll let you know. When we came up to it, I was staring at it, and I was like, yes, Herbie, brown ivory. He's like, yeah, I'm full. It's brown ivory. And it's good. It's good to see these ones growing. You can see the distinctive bark, very flaky, very short, and a very dark ashy color. Now this to me, here, looks, sorry, I can't point with my finger, it's a little bit too high. It looks like something has been trying to get up into the tree at one point. This would be a good tree for something like a leopard. And there's a lot of other damage that's down here at the bottom as well. And then coming up a little bit, looking a little bit like claw marks. Fantastic. All right, so we had alarm calls from some Nyala, and we got excited, and then as we were running through the bush to get to where it was, they stopped. And as we got to a nice pathway, we saw some hyena tracks. So a hyena must have walked past some Nyala just behind us, and they didn't carry on with the alarm call because they're not as worried about the hyena as they would be about a leopard. If they had kept barking, because it is very similar to a dog bark, we probably would have come across something like a lion or a leopard. But unfortunately, and no visual of the hyena, so unfortunately, nothing there. So we're going to carry on and keep looking for our elephants and see what we can find. Oh, check this spider web. Can you see it? We've got a really cool spider web. It's not new, but it's just here in the branch. And let's see if we can get that on camera for you. And while we do so, we're going to start heading up to the Masai Mara, where Ralph has a hippopotamus that he would like to show you. You can actually see where little bits have been caught in there.